Don't take it, don't. Don't take it, don't. Don't take it, don't. Don't take it, don't.
Welcome, everyone. Time to get started. Greetings. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Kira Epstein. I'm the co-director of the New School at Commonweal. Thank you so much for joining us. We are launching a new series of conversations today, exploring non-Western approaches to wisdom. And we're so honored to have a special guest here with us today, joining us from London, Okhiogbe Omonblanks Omonhinmin. But before we begin the conversation, we also welcome a new host to the new school, Susan Grelock Yusem. Susan is a depth-based community psychologist and our strategy and innovations officer at Commonweal. She is a joy to work with, and she brings her own wisdom and depth to all of her interactions. And she has been greatly enriching Commonweal's community since she joined us a couple of years ago. Her work is centered in the imaginal and in narrative repair, and she has a PhD in depth psychology from Pacifica Graduate Institute. We're so pleased to have her as a host at the New School for this series of conversations, and her three guests have vastly different perspectives and equally as compelling approaches to knowledge and wisdom. On December 4th, we have artist and art instructor Tara Gear. You can find out more about these guests and about all of our events and recordings at tns.commonweal.org. And you can also find our recordings on our media sites. So please like and subscribe to our sites on SoundCloud, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. I want to take the time to thank Ken Adams, who is behind the scenes making all of this run smoothly. So thank you, Ken. So Susan and Omonblanks and all of you with us, welcome to the New School at Commonweal.
Hi, Oman. How are you today?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Just watching the day change from being very bright to dark. Quite interesting period, autumn.
We're just watching the day begin here. I'm at Commonweal. We're watching the sun coming up.
Yeah, I can imagine that. No sun here for some time. And I feel like there's a beauty there. I was walking in the woods today and I saw this except on and just transformation and death, and it just makes me even appreciate just change in weather, change in life, and just change altogether, so that's what I'm feeling here.
That sounds great. Well, do you want to introduce yourself to the New School audience before we start just going around this topic a little more?
My name is Okhiogbe Omonblanks Omonhinmin. I was born in Nigeria, in Benin City. I'm Asa and Benin.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I would just give the meanings behind my name. Okhiogbe means W-A-R, war can't kill me, war won't kill me. And my family name is Omonhinmin, means this child will save me. And I feel like after years and years of observing myself, I'm a complete embodiment of my name. I embrace life just as it is, not pushing for it to be something else. I wake up every day just to repeat the day. Yeah.
Say more about that. You wake up every day to repeat the day?
Yes. I don't think I have a piercing desire to become something. So now that I have let go of what that desire that pushes one, that you wake up, that those burning desires, I want to be this, I want to be that. Yeah, I don't have those desires, even in my core relationships that I have chosen to participate in as a partner and as a parent. I don't wake up with those things as my desire. I don't wake up to be the best parent. I don't wake up to be the best partner. I just wake up to live and observe myself, as a partner, as a parent, as a friend, as a child, as a person, as a being, and also just being aware that everything I see, everything I hear, everything I feel moves in multiples. So I'm aware that I am here and I'm in other places, you know? So I am not so much fixated on just this happening. I accept all that there is, even the ones I am not aware of, you know? And then when you stumble on something, when I stumble on something new, I'm also not fixated on trying to explore it to the deepest place, you know? Yes, I feel in place. I don't feel out of space. Whether good, sweet, sour, whatever comes my way right now, it's place. So the question is, what am I here? You know, I don't think for my child, I am not the same parent every day.
Mm.
So I do not desire to be a version of parent or the version of parent every day. I could have like an amazing moment with my child. And for me, this is everything I say here is a me perspective and not a prescription for people to follow. For me, I don't hold on to like this sweet moment and be like, okay, this is the benchmark of the type of parent I should be, and I wake up every day. And that doesn't mean I don't have benchmarks. I don't live by them, you know? So I wake up every day to observe what type of parent am I going to be today? What type of reaction am I going to have? What type of interaction is it going to be? You know, constantly embracing contradictions.
And when you said that you have benchmarks, though, how do you have benchmarks in that kind of a fluid context? How do they?
Yeah, the benchmark comes with the physical body. So although I practice self-observation and know that I am besides this physical body, I also know that I am this physical body, right? So my physical body has been socialized, has been given perspective from this very 30-something years I've lived, and all the time lived either by me or by ancestry, right? So, and I'm not just talking in the past. I very much believe that the past and the future informs this body. So it's ancestry from the past, ancestry from the future, constantly informing this body. So sometimes, a lot of the times, I have to observe myself in socialization. I have to observe myself in ancestral information and see my body move in a way and observe it, and sometimes able to catch it and say, oh, this is the body, you know? So the body has benchmarks, and the body feels emotions. Like, for instance, I personally, from all in all my bodies being aligned, I do not necessarily move in emotions. I do not move in sadness, in happiness, but my body feels all those things, right? I just know that they do not determine what the next seconds would be, right? But still, my body is socialized and it has been nurtured, not just in this physical space, but through time, to feel a way towards sadness, to feel a way towards happiness, sweetness, sour, you know? And it's for me now to observe it and to remind it that sadness is fine, happiness is fine, but they are passing.
Can you say more about the idea of the socialized, like what socialized means, and go a little more into that word?
I think it's a placeholder, right? So socialize first. See, listen, the way we've had conversations, so you know that the way I process things is me. So
Yeah.
socialize first is like how you were raised, where you were born, very physical, very you can even place it to geography, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then socialize for me becomes a non-physical thing, right? So you're socialized by the internet, you're socialized by books, you're socialized by things beyond your location where you were born and raised, right? And then you're socialized by sound, you're socialized by light, you're socialized by imagination, by perception. All of these are socializations, right? Because your body is observing and storing, right? You're socialized by dreams, right? You have dream relations, and then you realize that you have begun to like something in the physical or dislike something in the physical that has no explanation, right? And when I say you're socialized by dreams, socialized by your wake, your sleep dreams, the dreams you have when you sleep, and your awakened dreams, the dreams you have awake, right? And then you're socialized by the non-physical, right? So you're socialized by space. There are sounds from out of this earth that socialize earth, right? They are vibrations that socialize earth, right? So earth is being in itself is being socialized, right? And then this is all the universe in that is tangible. And then we are socialized by intangibles, right? You're socialized by your intuition. If you have a belief in spirituality, you're socialized by spirituality. If you have a belief in science, you're socialized by science. And I'm not just talking about the science that is explained, right? I'm not talking about just the science that is explained. The science that is explained is not even close to what science is, right? So we're still finding science. This is the reason why when you start looking into traditional cultures, like their science is just way, 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 way ahead of what Western science is today. And I say Western science just because the West is claiming what science is, but obviously science is not Western. And then you're just socialized by your belief. I know for myself that life is continuous, right? And in that continuity, like there's a manifestation that polarizes everything, splits everything. So if you believe that darkness is the end of it all. Darkness is the end of it all. And then you're socialized by that because that drives your everyday. If you believe that there's an afterlife that is sweet, you're socialized by that. If you believe that there's an afterlife that is that is going to be hard, you're socialized by that. So I'm aware that sometimes my action that is socialized is not socialized by being raised in Benin City. It's not socialized by living a physical life. So sometimes I think I'm favored to sometimes catch some elements of my non-physical socializations. So when I say socialization, I mean it in that very vast scope.
It's funny because you're answering a question I was going to ask you, but I never asked you. But I should say that this whole series began with a conversation from you, and so it's perfect that you're helping initiate this series and helping us get into it. I imagine we'll just be plucking threads that are going to go through the other conversations. But like when you were talking about the idea of socialization, I was imagining sort of water flowing through all of these different entities containing. And one of the things you said to me the first time we talked was, and that has resonated for me, I'm still thinking about it. And I think it relates to the idea of socialization around a narrative. And like in many ways, I feel like narrative is like the shadowy aspect of knowing, because there are these, maybe it's the same as you're saying about socialization. Like there's narratives that all these entities put into us or onto us. And you told me that, like, being in Ghana as a Nigerian, there's narratives in Ghana that they want to put on. There's a narrative of Nigerian in Ghana, and that you just didn't. These are not your words, but my understanding was you just didn't let it hold you in a sense. And there was something the way that you said that I thought was really significant, like a really important turn. It's like I'm just wondering if you could say a little more about that idea, about how one navigates it when you're in it, and it wants to make you. The socialization is so powerful.
Yeah, I remember that conversation. I think we're talking about race, right? And we were talking about and the conversation was nice, and I wanted to explain how who I am, this body that is in the world today considered Black. As much as I understand what that is, as much as I understand the politics, as much as I do not distance myself from being Black, I understand I am Black, and I carry all that comes with that. I also know that I am Okhiogbe. Right? And I am me. So I'll just give an example of what I was saying. Like growing up in my house, there were narratives projected on me to be away. To be an Omonhinmin means this. And I have to determine what it means to be my Omonhinmin, not the Omonhinmin you present. Right? Because I know that the Omonhinmin that my father is and the Omonhinmin that I am are completely different Omonhinmins, right? So as growing up, what it means to be Nigerian in Nigeria, it's like, no, allow me to determine what it means to be my Nigerian, right? So as I travel through space and people project what it means to be Nigerian, what it means to be West African, Black, and it's just like, I can observe that, but that's not who I am. This is the reason why when I walk into spaces, I don't feel less than. I do not, I am not caught in the web of race politics. I observe it and I understand it, but I am not caught in it. I am not compelled by it. It doesn't dictate how I move. But I understand it completely and I know it. So it's tricky, right? So being in Ghana, I've lived in Ghana now like 11 years. There is a politics in West Africa that is also very largely informed by how that space was colonized, right? So there are narratives and projections that you fall victim to unconsciously and consciously. For me, when I'm inside a taxi or a bus and someone just seems maybe aggressive towards me, I know that I am not their problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that they are not my problem. Right? So it goes also when I'm in Berlin and someone is racist towards me. Yes, this is a racist moment and this person is being racist. But I also know that I am not their problem and they are not my problem, you know? Because if I truly believe that we are within this system that is being coerced and being manipulated, being managed, and they are different outcomes, I know that this person is being informed consciously or unconsciously to perform an action that they might not even be in control of, you know? So I have empathy for these people, you know, whether from Nigeria, Ghana, or whether it be a racist act by anyone here in the West. I don't want to now embrace them and say, wow, come and be my friend. But I walk away not sending them hatred or sadness or any negative energy. Instead, I send them love because I understand that they are operating from a very specific place. And the only thing they can do from that place is be racist or be prejudiced or be classist, you know? And it's just like, it is what it is. I don't think anything is out of place. So when I leave there, instead of now, because I was not always like this, instead of like, why would this person be this, blah, 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 I'm more in tune to say, what was that moment giving me? You know? I reflect on it and I observe it. It's like, who was I to that person?
Mm-hmm.
What version of me were they seeing? So these are the questions that come instead of just the binary, oh, you're not nice to me, or you attacked me.
It's like a self-observation for yourself, and then through observing through that person, like the situation on the bus as an example. I mean, seeing this self-observation coming from all different perspectives.
Yeah, because I know that this is for me, because the realization that I know of myself might not be a realization for you, but I know that I move in different bodies, right? So at any given time, I might be physically in front of you and you might be seeing a completely different me, and you might be having a conversation with a different me. I might be saying something and my tonality might be the tonality of a different bodies that I carry. And it's just like, we just be speaking like on top of each other, you know? And so this is why self-observation is key for me, to always try to slow down and know who is speaking, you know, align myself to be aware. so that I'm aware when I'm just reacting, you know, and I can trace where that reaction is coming from, you know. For me, listen, life is very funny. I laugh every time because I'm very serious, you know, but I laugh all the time, you know. That is sometimes even irritating for anybody that could be. It's like, why have you been laughing at this? It's like, because everything is funny.
Can yeah. Can you say a little? You mentioned earlier about being a parent. You're a new parent, and how you're a different parent every day, or how do you wake up into that day? Like, how can you talk a little bit about the transformation of becoming a parent, that role, and having that other being there reflecting back?
I just to say, I always try to use the word parent instead of father, right? But just like I said, as I observed myself in space as a Black person, and knowing that that's not completely who I am, I observe myself as a father, and I know that that's not who I am, because that's a term that is very gendered, right? And knowing myself and knowing that in different iterations, in different realities, I'm not just man, right? So, and when I align with myself, I know that the container of parent is a more fluid container, right? It's not gendered. So that's the container that in this physical space I try to expand on, but conscious of the fact that the perceptions of me as a father is there, and I carry that perception, right? And I carry it, but the thing that I nurture daily is being a parent, right? Because then any version of me can be that.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it also is kind of like a conscious and an unconscious contribution to space, because when I nurture the vibration and the energy of parent, it has the possibility of also nurturing that energy and that vibration in this physical, in Earth, in this world, in this location. And it's just like, then the possibilities of being parents is expansive, right? Because being a mother and being a father, as beautiful as it sounds, is very gendered, and it can be, it can reduce us to two things,
Mm-hmm.
right? But that's not out of place. That is very, very much here, and will be here for forever, for as long as it should be here, for as long as it works. And then the possibility of being a parent is just a fluid state. Any being, identified and unidentified, can enter that space and say, I'm a parent, right? So it's a non-binary term for me. It's a space that is non-gendered. So it's a space that is very physical, and it's also very non-physical for me. So it's a very beautiful place for me to be. And it's a language that I use for my child, because it's not, for me, it's not a space of control. It's not a space of force. It's not, it's just a space of nurturing. Like, in Nigeria and some parts of West Africa, a young person can be born into, let's say, it's funny that I'm about to use references monarchy as a reference. But a young person can be born, and let's say this 2-year-old becomes the king of this place, right?
Mhm.
And then they say, well, a 2-year-old can be king. So they could hand over the kingdom to someone who becomes a custodian,
Mhm.
right? And the person's job is to hold the space until the child is able to become king or queen or whatever. Now, even though that is gendered, I look at that and I bring it into a space where there were times where our lives as West Africans were not as gendered as it is. There are particles and references through our languages and everything that shows that we live in a very non-binary space. So the idea of being a custodian to hold space until the child is ready to take their space, right? So when you look at that from a place of care, from a place of service, it's that's what I think a parent is. You know,
Mhm.
it's not your job to make the child something. It's your job to wake up every day and hold space.
And how do you hold the complexity of when, as the child grows and moves into other spaces, where there's like daycare or the other forms that a child starts to move into as they get older? And how do you hold that as a parent as you watch those things trying to contain or take the space that your child is living into?
If I was speaking as myself from 3 years ago, I would be like, I don't really trust the academic space because of the formula it uses. It uses a formula that wakes up kids in the morning and send them to bed in the night and give them a very rigid structure. And that is a structure. They wake up one day, they're adults, and that's the same structure they use. They wake up and go to work. But it's funny because the word is getting out of the 9 to 5 structure, right? So it's interesting to observe the word already in this space, but a lot of people are not aware that the 9 to 5 structure is already elusive, right? And so now the question is, what is the academic system? What is the school system going to look like 30, 40, 50, 60 years from now? Now, there are already particles of references to show you that even the curriculum of school is changing to accommodate what is coming, right? So, but for me right now, I'm aware that who I am in partnership with, the two of us together are a stronger institution than any nursery, any school,
Mhm.
any society. So it's always just going to be, who are we and what are we doing? As I support my partner and she supports me in parenting, we are holding space for whatever the child wants to become, you know? And there's a photo. I was telling you I was in the woods today, and I sent you the photo of the beetle, right? And it says that they stay in the cocoon for 6 years, right? And they come out in May, and they transition in August, right? So they stay in that box for 6 years, become an adult, come out, find a mating partner, May, June, July, August, within 4 months, they transition, right? What a beautiful thing, right? And we humans want to hold on so much to this physical body, like, I can't die, I still have so much to do. And the world around us, the universe around us just moves so fluidly, So my goal as a parent is no goal. I don't have any mission. The job every day is to wake up and be a parent. And what is that? Is to make space, hold space, nurture space, right? Is to pay attention to what the child is saying. I can speak just from my personal experience in life. My child has been very clear of who they are since inception, before they became a physical reality. And then when they came into this physical space, they've been very clear, of what they want, who they are, their sensitivities, you might say, oh, they didn't have words. It's like, no, if you pay attention, we speak nonverbal, right? So if you are speaking and observing and listening to your kid in a nonverbal way, you are not limited, right? And now as they come into a space where they have words, you can see that it aligns with everything that they've been saying before they had words. So for me, it's just to always know that my child is the leader of our life, right? And as much as I parent, the goal is to always follow. Like, where are you going? Okay. All right. Do you need a torchlight?
That's a beautiful way to sum up parenting wisdom. Where are you going? Do you need a torchlight?
Yeah. Because I'm only responsible for myself. And even that is just like, I don't even know the beginning and the end of it. Right? And no matter how big or small, we're all responsible for ourselves, and every other thing is by choice. So even the space I hold as a parent is by choice. It's a very conscious choice.
There's a theme of time. I mean, we're talking about moving through time and space, and time is sort of part of everything we're saying, like 6 years in the cocoon and holding that. And I'm curious, in the 9 to 5, like the culture, like the material culture that we live in is so time-based. And can you say a little bit more about living with that material reality, with understanding that that's a socialization, or that's one form of thinking about time? But I was thinking about in the walk in here, I walked here to Commonweal from home, and it's like 2.5 miles. And in this 9 to 5 culture, even here, it's like, it's disruptive to walk. Like it changes everything with time. And I've observed that in that disruption of a certain form of time, everything kind of opens up in a very different way. I mean, and I'm just curious, it's a very complex thing to hold when you're in certain systems or structures. So how do you reflect upon that and hold that?
I don't know if I hold it, and I feel like it's important to say that my child is one of my biggest teachers when it comes to time currently, right? When my child came to this world, one of the things that you have to do is, like, they eat, they sleep, they poop, and they pee, It's like rotation. So you're constantly changing them, right? And I also traditionally baited my child, So they are very ancestral ways you bait a kid for the first time. And different cultures have different ways and technologies in the way they welcome their child by baiting them. But what that is that as I'm changing her and baiting her and massaging her, what I'm doing is I'm using my hands, but it's slowing down because this being is so fragile, right? But what it's doing is I'm observing every single thing that I can observe. And I'm observing time change right in front of me. Because every time I'm changing her, I'm seeing something different. I'm observing her through time and I'm seeing every seconds of change. And I'm like, wow, I'm seeing her change every day, you know? So it made me really slow down even more to be like, oh, wow, I am changing still like this every day. Because sometimes you might forget, you know? And then I'm looking at her now, almost 2, and changing every day, changing every day. And it just like reminds me to slow down, you know, and to be aware that time is it's not just binary, you know, because it can be binary for some people, you know, but it presents so many doors, you know. And the funny thing is, it's not just that it presents so many doors. You take a key, you have like 1,000,000,000 keys to one door, and you open it 1,000,000,000 times. It takes you into 1,000,000,000 possibilities, right? And then it's just like every person who goes through that door has 1,000,000,000 stories. But the observer who is seeing everyone go through the same door thinks maybe they're going into the same place, right? And it's just like, it's all just a perspective. Where are you observing time from? You know, what in time are you observing? Because time carries a lot of information, right? So what about time? What within time are you observing? You know, and your observations at any given time is different, right? But then you can be a time traveler and loop the same experience. I know that is very possible. You can loop the same experience and you can be in a loop, you know? Like some people stay in the same loop of politics. Some people stay in the same loop of music, you know? And they just stay in that loop. And I think like concept of capitalism stays in a loop, right? And that's why it's trying to force people to look the same, feel the same, be the same, you know? But even that loop has so many cracks. And then you see that, oh, it's not binary still.
And what are the cracks?
Like you walk into the room of capitalism, every capitalist don't look the same, right? They don't feel the same. If you can see them, but like all these fucking billionaires. But if you put all the billionaires in the same room, they don't have the same politics. They don't have the same culture. They don't have the same vibration. You know, they might all have $1 billion or £1 billion or £1 billion, but that billion doesn't mean the same thing in the room, you know? So they can't even align within the culture of money and capitalism, right? So it just shows you that, like, the concept of utopia or the concept of total damnation, it's like, those are just they come from the same place for me, you know? Like there's no reference to where they ever existed fully, right? Because for it to be complete damnation and for it to be complete utopia means time becomes solely binary. right? So coming back to me, I just observe myself. I don't right now I do not feel attached to any of these realities.
Living from a place of self-observation.
Yes, yes. And I've been living like that in little chunks since I was like 5, 6. And then in the last 2 years, realizing the accumulation of self-observation that I have accumulated, and it merging and really, really giving me the clarity that I move with now. So when I look at the 5-year-old me who started this journey, I'm like, wow, you were like futuristic. You're a time traveler. How did you see this? But then it's like, yeah, obviously, because I see my 60-something-year-old and my 50-something-year-old and my 80-something-year-old. And that doesn't necessarily mean that my physical body would physically meet that time, but I see them, and I see them through space. I see them in multiplicities. The very colorful ones and the very bland ones, the very sweet ones and the very sour ones.
I've had this experience myself. There's some like fractal in childhood that comes that is sort of there. Like for myself, it was a sense of life as like the spiraling, and that it's taken decades to like almost understand that glimpse that was there that gets, sort of crowded out. But I think of that as a crack myself, but I might be using it differently than you are.
Let me tell you something about time before you ask this question that you have. I can ancestrally trace myself to every physical reality of humanity, if we really just want to use time spent on Earth. For as long as the human race has been, if you start rewinding, then I can trace myself to every culture, every location there is, right? So when I say ancestral, I'm not just talking about my Benin ancestry. I'm saying human and non-human ancestry. So in that space, when I carry my body and I enter anywhere, there is ancestry there. I am home. Omuto is what they call it from where I come from. Omuto means child of the land. I am child of the land anywhere I go. I don't need to do much.
It's like when we were talking the other day, and it's making me think of when you said you understand that no place is safe, and you're not afraid to go into an unsafe space. Like that requires a certain fluidity in travel through space and time to be able to hold that understanding. I mean, it seemed to me like in holding those two ideas together, you're holding the complexity of all of it, of what is there, and then how we could move through it.
Yeah. So even in that statement, because every statement I make, if you open it up, you pop it up, it's like no place is safe means every space is unsafe and safe.
Yes.
Right? So there is this constant work and constant interaction that you have to always do, to find where there is safety and when there is where it's unsafe, And then there's just all of those things in between, right? And around what that is, So for me particularly, because I don't fear death, I don't go looking for death. I don't go running away from death. Back to my name, Okhiogbe, war won't kill me. So it's all okay,
Well, we have almost run out of time. I see a question in the chat, but before we go there, is there anything else you want to say or just touch on that we haven't had a chance to get into?
I don't know.
Well, we can take Tracy's question. Tracy Ann asked, in what ways has your child's wisdom impacted you as an African person, raising them in Europe? Does the environment matter?
In a very plain way, location and geography, becomes something. I was born in Benin and raised in Benin. So my very early physical socialization comes from that place. My child born in London and raised around the world, also our socialization is so different. But because I know what time is, in my parenting, I don't project the fear that is populated here on what it means to be Black, right? What I do is I'm holding the space, and she's seeing that the possibility of life is endless. My child has traveled more than I ever did in my first 30 years, right? Just the physicality of it, right? So it also means that like the perspective and possibility is also endless. As she finds questions, I would answer them, But I'm not in a rush to project societal question of what it means to be a Black person, a girl, because I don't even know what this child would wake up one day and say, this is who I am, right? So I am nurturing space for possibilities, right? Also being aware, I have a politics of hair. That's very ASAM, that's very where I come from. And then globally, that's also very Black. But I am giving these politics from a very non-forceful place. It's not a place it's not from fear, it's not from excitement. It's just is, because the way I move through space is not the same way our mother moves through space, not the same way our aunties and uncles who are just a colorful bunch. They all do not move through space the same. As a parent, I make the possibility for her to experience all of that possibilities, all of that, and then find the things that she wants to find. Right? And as she finds them, she knows she can come to me for a question. She can go to a mom for a question, to an uncle, to an auntie. That the bowl of answers is just like expansive. That's what I'm nurturing. If she finds fear, we would face fear. If she finds excitement, we will face excitement. Like, what's she going to find? Instead of saying, you are going to find this. Because we're not a monolith. So every Black person, every human do not move through space the same. right? So I'm not in a rush to project Blackness on my child yet.
It's quite an exquisite view of parenting you're sharing. I mean, this idea of this expansiveness and yet being held, contained. It's quite, I mean, it's quite a gift to be able to be a child in that.
We don't know. It might be a gift. It might be not a gift. Like myself and my partner always laugh and be like, she might just wake up and say, hey, I'm a capitalist, you know? And the beauty is to be able to hold space. If she wakes up and say, I'm a capitalist, then how do you hold space as a parent? Some people, their loved ones wake up one day and say, this is who I am, and they're disappointed because they're so attached to their projection and their need and their desire for the person. Like, I don't have a desire for what my child should become. My child is going to be what they're going to be. Because of how I see space and time and life, I know that they already are what they are going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just catching up with time,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's not on me and it's not on my partner to locate who they are going to be. It's to always just nurture space so that whatever they can become in proximity to us. I like this question by Wufoma.
Yeah. Do you want to take that?
You can go.
No, is it correct to see your viewpoint as a multi-layered model of self-consciousness? What may be the usefulness in being able to navigate life with such depth of detachment?
I don't know if it's useful, right? Because the concept of usefulness means that you're attaching yourself to others. You know, it can be completely useless.
Mm-hmm.
Who I am can be a very useless reality to the people around me, you know, and then they communicate that to me, and then it becomes a choice to either change or not, right? So even in all of this self-observation and awareness, there are still choices that I'm making. I just said, I have made the choice to be a parent. I've made the choice to be in partnership. I have made the choice to remain a son. I've made the choice to remain a brother, an uncle, you know, so all of these are conscious choices of mine, right? And being aware that they are choices also just makes it possible for me to present myself as myself, right? So the idea of detachment, I also do not believe there is total detachment, you know, for myself. In this physical reality, this body speaking to you cannot be completely detached because it's also a choice I have made, you know, and maybe other bodies of mine can achieve that, but by choice, I've decided to see what it means to just be me in time. So there are moments of attachment, there are moments of detachment, right? So I don't think I am pushing any concept of complete detachment. If I was doing that, I wouldn't drink water. I won't wear clothes. I won't speak through this laptop. So there is a component of attachment that exists once you choose to, for me, once I choose to live this type of life, there's an attachment. But to be conscious of it is what I'm talking about, to be aware of it, to be aware of myself in attachment, to be aware of myself in detachment, to be aware of myself in myself, to be aware of myself in community, in relationship. in space through time. You know?
Tracy's responding to that this is, I think this is a very attached stance, attached to the notion of freedom and choice.
You see? So I think she was speaking to Ufoma. But the space that I hold, Ufoma is right. The space that I hold, Tracy is right. So depending on who I am in space, I might be what Ufoma is saying. And depending on who I am in space, I might be what Tracy is saying. It's just like, I know that I am a plethora of things, right? I am multiple realities. So there are times where I am what Tracy is saying, and there are times where I'm what Ufoma is saying. There were times where I wasn't aware of those movements. I am now developing myself to be constantly aware of how my body moves. And I say my body, and that just mean just this one. All the bodies that I am aware of and the ones I'm not aware of, as they inform this reality.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thankful for them. They captured it. Yeah. Those two elements.
Is there anything else you want to add to the conversation before we wrap it up? It was a very fast hour.
Yeah, no. If you have another question, yeah, but if not, let me think.
Also want to ask if people want to, there's a number of people who are with us and you're going to hear this that aren't familiar with you. Are there ways that they can connect to you, or other things you're doing? Or
the funny thing is, I think a lot of people here know me. And for those who do not, Charlie, like, you can just like Google my name, like find me on Instagram or somewhere. But I don't think there's anything special there. But if you just want to stay in touch on the social media platform, then cool. Yeah. So you can just find me Omonblanks on Instagram. But other than that, I think you can also just send me an email if you want to if you have questions that you don't want to share here, or you want to have a conversation about something which is more direct, which is also fine. Yeah.
I love that thing, what you said about being a parenting, catching up with time. It's a really provocative way to think about parenting, and also beautiful or fun, actually.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Why is it provocative?
Because I think it flips it upside down. I think there's this notion of parenting as being like some active construction of something. And instead, the idea of it being just following or like opening into something or coming to understand something, like the idea that the child is born and that you're just here to understand its language or to make space for its becoming or understanding it, the child's self.
You know, the beauty of social media right now is that a lot of people are in conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's happening right now, which is beautiful to observe, is that non-Western ideas, non-academic ideas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lived experiences right now are piercing through space, right?
Mm-hmm.
And giving academics and people who supposedly are telling us what life is, giving them a run for their money, right?
Yeah.
And I just feel like if the 8 point something billion people on Earth could share their experience, it would not be provocative. Because truly lived experience, there's just a majority in this scope. But because academia and the West has to always, and capitalism always have to push things through data and research, this concept that this is the majority way in which we think and we act and we exist. And it's just like, that's not true, you know? And it is just like, I don't think what I'm saying is different or special. I just think that it's just different from what is populated within the canon of academia, the canon of the West. And I'm saying all of that, it goes into even alternative spaces of knowledge, of spirituality, of experiences. If the old or just person living in some rural place or some city who is just living life every day could just speak at Harvard, you'd realize that the so-called average, regular, everyday person is more impactful and more expansive than a lot of these professors and thinkers.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, I'm thinking back about about how it landed when, like, with that idea of the phrase catching up with time. Like, maybe provocative's not the right word, but like, it's actually just what you said, because when you say that, it's like, oh yeah, that's what parenting looks like. Catching up with time. That's what most people would say if you ask them. If you said that to a parent, they would be like, huh, and they'd be like, yeah, that's what it's like.
Yeah. Yeah. There's Charlie is asking a question, but just wanted to respond to what you just said. Like, before I became a parent, you'd have conversations with different parents. And when you share an idea, some people will be like, oh, you're not a parent yet. You don't understand.
I get it. Yeah.
And I always have this joke with my partner. It's like, I wish I could call on all of those people who said you're not a parent yet. You will understand. This your idea would change, so that I can tell them, hey, the idea has still not changed. Because it's just like, but I couldn't really let them see that even though in a physical space, I wasn't yet a parent to an actual human, I was already getting information from my parent self.
Yeah.
You know? So I could already live through time and time travel into myself as a parent, this particular self, and get information. So it's just like, I think it's also very reductive to tell somebody that, hey, you don't know what you're saying because you don't have the physical experience. Then why do we pay so much attention to psychology and the mental part of who we are, right? Or the spirituality of things, or the non-physical of things. So it's just that. And Charlie says, do you have a practice that enables you see these multiple socializations and facets of who you are?
How do you sort through all the noise in your everyday experience?
For me, I just so Charlie, I just want to say, I got this very beautiful gift when I was 16. My mother transitioned. And once it transitioned, my journey into understanding that nothing is permanent was captured, right? So from 16, I started really, really developing the self-awareness to know that nothing lasts forever, right? So nothing beautiful, nothing sad, nothing sour lasts forever. If you can just wait, it would pass, right? So it also made me also aware that they are potters, you know? Like, my mom transition in the physical, but I've been able to cultivate relationship with the person when she was here. I've been able to revisit and have new types of relationship with that. But I've also been able to hold connections with the person who transitioned, and also observe her through time and space. So that relationship helped me really, really focus in observing space. So I can just say one of the things I discovered recently that I didn't have is sitting to meditate, right? So I've always been meditative in the way I live, walking through space. It's a meditation for me. Life is a constant meditation, but sitting, I just realized that sitting makes me truly, truly, truly understand the nothingness of everything. And it's been a big addition to my life right now. And it has actually given me my most current clarity of what I am.
Do you have a regular
Or,
sitting? Good.
you said?
You have a regular sitting practice now.
I try to sit minimum of 2 hours a day in the mornings and in the evenings. I am trying. So worst case, I sit an hour a day. I went into silence and I was doing 12 hours of sitting and meditation. But like I told you, I don't be holding on to like benchmarks and goals. For me, I just want to sit however I can sit. If it's 10 minutes, I sit and I hold space for all that I am. Why also, what I said, I just realized that it charges my realizations, right? So that's one of the things. How do you sort through all the noise in your daily life? I don't see them as noise. I don't see them as noise. It's vibration, it's sound. But the literal noise, the literal noise, I just started using this. When I'm walking on the street, I just close my ears with this so that I can hear what I need to hear through the plethora of sounds. But I don't try to run away. When I'm over sensitive, when I feel just too sensitive, I take space for myself. I always take space for myself, no matter where I am. I can be in a place where they say you can't move. If I feel like I need to move, I would move. So I always take space for myself. I go into silence. I hold my body. I like this person and I like to nurture it and I care for it. So I can be in the best birthday celebration and I'm having a swear time, Charlie, and then an intuition says, slow down. I would just walk away, find any dark space or any space where people aren't populated, sit down or stand and just take some minutes to myself. And when I'm doing that, my eyes are mostly closed. My body's on the wall or I'm sitting. I am not in control of anything, of thought. I just detach and completely remove myself from all that is happening. And when I feel energized, I go back again.
What a great question.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
For the people who will hear this only as a podcast, I should say that you had held up earphones in response to how do you clear out noise in your everyday experience? Sometimes it's earphones.
Yeah, this noise canceling
Noise canceling
headsets. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, well, thank you for this time. It's been wonderful. I also want to thank this listening audience. I felt a very strong presence of this group that's been here listening live with us today.
Yeah, a lot of the people here are part of my community. People who have shared love with me through time and space. So
yeah, I feel it. It feels like we've been in a real container of deep listener. So
yes, Tracy, death gave birth to, I wouldn't say new. I wouldn't say gave birth to. I think you're correct, but I just want to find the right word. Death opened my eyes to the reality that is.
we've only touched on so many threads today. Thank you for opening up this series. I feel like there's a lot more conversations to come, but this is a beautiful to create a beginning. So thank you for spending this time and space with us.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Susan. Thank you, Kira. Thank you, Ken. Thanks to the new school, Commonweal, and thank you to everybody who took out time to come here and hold space in silence. And sometimes the strongest space is when there's not so much happening. So I really appreciate everybody who has held space.
Thank you.
All right.
Wonderful. Well, Susan and Omonblanks, really appreciated your conversation, your words, your thoughts. And as Susan said, it really was a perfect start to the series on what we know and also what we don't know. Another reminder to join us, if you can, for the next 2 conversations in the series with Susan James and Tara Gear in November and December. If you registered for this event, you're also registered already for all 3 events, and you should get a reminder about them. You can find out more at tns.commonweal.org. Susan and Omonblanks, thank you for being with us at the New School at Commonweal. We'll see you next time, everyone.
Don't take it, don't, don't take it, don't, don't take it, don't, don't take it, don't, don't take it, don't take it, don't take it, don't,